Alright, we've got Greg Haley here, and we're going to go over a few things that we worked on during our session on June 24th. We're going to look at his progress so far and then go over a few things that I want to address the next time we get to work together. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the driver setup. So the frame on the left is from June the 9th, which was our initial filming session here, and then the frame on the right is during our session on June 24th. So I gave Greg a posture setup drill, which you'll actually see him go through here, where we put the club out in front of us, flex the knees slightly, and then bend over at the waist. And so as we watch him go through that, we see the setup is drastically improved, whereas in this frame the back is rounded and there's a lot of flex in the knees. You can see here, got a much better spine angle here, and so really gets him in a much better athletic position here. And also, if you notice the spacing between the grip and his belt buckle, there's more room here versus the initial filming. He was a little bit close. So looks like we made some great improvements here just by incorporating that setup drill. So that was one of the improvements that I wanted to highlight there. And we're going to look at another one. We strengthened Greg's grip quite a bit. As you can see here, he's got it up in his fingers. You can't see it from this angle as well, but the right hand's very much on top and the left hand is pretty weak. And you can tell actually here, you can see Greg's right thumb on his right hand in this frame, whereas in this one it's completely rolled over the grip. So what you're going to notice that this does is a couple of very nice things when Greg takes the club away. If we watch here the initial swing, we're going to see the move here where Greg takes it away and the club opens up pretty rapidly and gets into an open position. Whereas if we watch our lesson here a few days ago, we're gonna see whoops, too far. Alright, if we look at this frame here, let's match them up here. So let's look at that frame on the right versus 2 weeks prior. You can really tell a difference just if you look at this position of the club face is pointing much more towards the ball, whereas here the club face is more in the toe up position. So I really like this position a lot better. Also, if you notice the forearms, the left arm in this one is rotated a lot more than the left arm in this one. So I really feel like just making that grip change and the little takeaway drill that we did, trying to keep the club facing more towards the ball, we've already seen some very nice improvements here. And actually, if you go up to the top, you're going to see the club face in this position here is pointing much more skyward than initially. So basically, we've managed to get some of the excessive face rotation out. You can sort of see the difference, whereas we're pointing more up and down here, it's pointing more towards the sky, which I really like this position. So really in one session here we were able to tackle a couple of Greg's problems. So I like what we did there. Now I'd like to highlight a couple of things that I want to work on for the next session. So we're going to pull up, let's see, we'll leave this driver swing on for Greg. Actually, we'll go to an iron swing here because this will be a little bit easier to tell. And Greg, during our session, once we did the setup drill and continued to work on the grip, he was really starting to hit the irons well and just seeing a lot of progress in overall ball flight. So that was really encouraging to see. So we're going to look at Aaron Baddeley here. So there's a couple things I want I want to point out that you'll notice between these two swings. I think one of the main reasons that Greg struggles with his swing path, as we've looked at before, but we'll do a quick. So even though he's in a better position here, and you'll watch the club takeaway, much less face rotation. That's a great takeaway there. I mean, that is beautiful. So I'm really happy with that. But as you'll watch here, Greg still picks the club up and is still going to be coming over the top of it. Whereas if we look at this position, Battley here, you're going to see the takeaway is going to look very similar to Greg's, which is nice to see. He's actually got the face a little bit more shut than Greg's, but I like Greg's too. But you're going to see he stays more in a spine angle here, and thus is able to drop the club right back on line. So the main position that I want to point out is right here. If you would draw a line right here on Aaron's shoulders at the top of his swing, you're going to see that the left shoulder is much lower than the right. Whereas if you watch Greg's throughout his backswing, instead of rotating the shoulders and staying in a spine angle, you're going to see him pick up, and you can actually see his head move upwards as he goes up. And so if we stop at the top of his swing, you're going to see this angle in his shoulders is much flatter, whereas Aaron's is much more vertical. So basically what this does on the left is it allows him to stay in his spine angle, and he can just drop the club straight back down on the plane line. Whereas Greg, he picks up his upper body and actually loses that spine angle. So the only way that he can take his head from up and back is to kind of lunge forward, and the club face is going to fall. You can watch the head in this frame right here. You can see how much it's going down and towards the ball just to try to get back in position. But unfortunately, that's going to call anywhere the head goes, the club's going to follow. So the next time Greg and I work, I want to really focus on, I'm going to give him a couple of drills, basically teaching him how to turn his upper body and keep that spine angle without picking up. So he's going to feel it's going to be a much more compact swing. And then also, I've actually got a training aid that I'm going to show him the next time we work together. If you'll see here, he's got a pretty good loss of swing width by the time he gets to the top. You can see the left arm is a little bit broken down, and the hands are very close to the head. Whereas if you watch any tour player here, you can see the left arm is straighter and the hands are much farther away from the head, whereas Greg's are sort of right there. And so I think the combination of that and what we talked about with the spine angle is just making it hard for him to be able to drop that club straight down on plane. So overall, that's what I want to work on with the swing. But like I said, in just one session, there's a couple of major improvements there that I'm really happy to see. So now we're going to look at, just briefly go over what we did with the short game. So let's look at putting. This is a view from down the line, and what we talked about briefly is Greg was setting up with his feet closed and the putter face a little bit left to where he was looking, where he felt like he was aimed. He felt like he was aimed more out towards this ball bag here, but his face was actually left. So what you're going to see is, as the putter goes away, it's going to get a little bit outside the line initially. Actually, this path is pretty good. Maybe a little, it would want to arc a little bit more. You're going to see him kind of come over the top just a touch, and he's going to push it a little bit right of where that face was aimed. I mean, we're talking pretty minor details here, but the main thing that is easily correctable, and this was actually, I think this putt lips out, but it was a good putt. Ooh, look at that. Brutal. But main thing we want to work on is just getting these lines squared up. So we want to get the feet, and let's clear these lines off so it's a little easier to look at. So we want to get the feet, you can't see his shoulders, but shoulders, feet, and club head all parallel. So basically that's just going to make it easiest to not only keep the putter on the path, but also for general alignment purposes. But overall, the path of the stroke's pretty good. We just want to pay attention to setup, and Greg and I went through a couple little setup drills just to make it easier to align the putter. So that's what we did with putting, and then we'll take a quick look here at chipping. And actually, when I had talked to Greg, I was expecting, looking at his chipping, to see much more of a opening of the club face when he chipped, like he does in his full swing. But actually, he does a great job here of keeping that club face pointed towards the ball on his chips. So if you watch here, he takes it inside, club stays outside the hand, face stays pretty square, and he comes through. The only thing I wanted to work on here, and I mentioned this to Greg, is he's crowding the ball here. So I want to make it much more like you would in a full swing, where you give yourself a little bit more space. And then I think that'll, if you kind of watch this chip here, he kind of stops moving his body here, and the hands and arms just take over, and he didn't quite catch all that one. So ideally we get a little bit more space, and that way he's able to catch these a little bit more consistently solid. But overall, I thought the chipping motion was pretty good. So that's kind of a recap of what we worked on here in our first session, and what I'd like to go over the next time we work. But overall, Greg's making great progress here, and I look forward to doing it again.